It was a dark evening in the mid-1970s. The weather was steady rain and fog. A gale-force southeast wind was blowing. The 65-foot wooden tug we were on bounced steadily against the dock. We were tied up in Cayucot Harbor on the west coast of Vancouver Island. My friend Cindy, her young daughter Tanya, and I were below in the galley of the tug, cleaning up after dinner. Tanya sat in her toddler chair that was lashed into the corner of the bench that encircled the teak dining table. We were chatting and listening to the ultra-high frequency radio telephone. Not much traffic on the radio, mostly low-level static. We had checked the marine station earlier, and the weather didn't sound good for the next couple of days. The storm warning indicated dangerous winds gusting up to 50 miles an hour and heavy seas. We were content to be where we were, tied up against the dock. Suddenly, Mayday, Mayday! The agonized call blasted out of the UHF radio telephone. Jesus Christ, I'm on a reef. This is the fish boat. I'm on a reef outside of Cayucot. Silence. Cindy ran up the ship's ladder from the galley to the deck, shouting for our skipper. Frank, it's a Mayday. There's a boat on the reef. Frank slammed out of the head where he had been sitting on the toilet reading a book. He jumped down into the galley. Then again, the panicked man's voice. Mayday! Mayday! Christ, here comes another wave. Silence. Another voice comes on the radio. Fishboat! Fishboat! Where are you? Shit! I'm on a reef.
Can't hear me.
Just past the Cayucot entrance. Roger that, okay. This is the seine boat leaving Cayucot Harbor right now. Is your emergency strobe on? Then another voice on the radio. We're on our way too. Then Frank quickly on the radio. This is the tug, Tanya too. We are on our way. Help! Help!
Can't hear me.
Oh no, another wave is coming over. Crash! Silence. Frank moved to the engine room and started up the big twin Buddha engines. We were all running on adrenaline by then. My friend strapped little Tanya into her bunk in the stateroom behind the wheelhouse and lay down beside her. The little girl knew the bad weather drill and did not fuss. I put on my heavy weather gear and stood by to cast off from the float. I was nervous about being the only deckhand on board, a neophyte in a demanding situation. I felt released when two fishermen from boats tied up near us ran down the dock and jumped on board. The sound of the tug's engines moved to a roar, and we headed out. The seiners were on the radio. Where are you? Where are you, fishboat? We can't see you. Is your strobe light on? Fishboat, fishboat, answer. Then we saw the strobe. The light was flashing from a completely wrong direction. The guy was way off course. The voice from the sinking boat again. Jesus Christ, another wave, another wave. My boat is slipping off the rocks. I'm not going to make it. It's only me, he said. My deckhand isn't here. We cringed. The voice said, he broke his leg. He's not here. He's in the hospital in Port Hardy. Small mercy. It took about 30 minutes for the two big seiners and our tug to move in close to the smashed-up boat. The fishboat was side over, trolling poles smashing in the waves. Everything looked busted up, gear and cable dragging in the water. The breaking sea churned white in the searchlights. We saw the fisherman clinging to the side of his boat cabin. The fisherman screamed that he wanted to save his boat. I thought to myself, this is a bad scene. Let's just save him. Forget the boat. The skippers were talking back and forth on the radio. Frank made a decision. The seiners backed off. We moved in. The trolling poles smashed down on the tug's rear deck repeatedly. I stood at the wheelhouse door, watching the depth sounder. When the reef showed under our keel, I screamed out the readings, and Frank would gun the tug forward or wherever, using the controls from where he stood at the stern. The volunteer deckhands were in more danger as they slid around the rear deck, ducking the crashing trolling poles, trying to throw a line to the fisherman hanging onto his cabin. His radio phone was clutched in one hand. He did not want to let go of his boat. The seiner and tug searchlights were centered on the scene. Everything appeared surreal. The man on his sinking boat, the strobe light flashing, everything jittered. The smell of the ocean and diesel exhaust mixed together in the howling wind. It was a bad situation, but we did it. Thanks to Frank's determination and skill, we got the fisherman and his smashed up boat off the reef in that intense storm. As we slowly towed the boat back into Cayucot Harbor, I could feel the adrenaline leave my body. My hands were shaking. I steadily threw up over the side of the tug. Little girl Tanya slept on. What were her dreams?